Today, I'm going to talk about a sad incident that happened recently. The plane going from Ahmedabad to London, Air India flight crashed. So what happened in it and which plane it was, I will share some information about it. First of all, let's know which plane it was, when it happened, and what happened. The plane was Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, and its flight was Air India flight AI-171, which was on 12th June 2025 at 1:38 p.m. The route was from Ahmedabad to London Gateway. The total number of passengers was 242, 230 passengers plus 12 crew members. 241 people died in the plane, and there were about 38 hostel students who died on the ground. Because the plane crashed, it fell on a hostel, and more than 60 injured people died in the plane. So what happened? When the plane took off, after flying for 30 to 33 seconds, it crashed, and it was at an altitude of about 625 feet. So now let's know a little bit about how the plane flies, how the plane works. When the plane flies, there are four main things working in it. The first is lift, that is, the lifting force, which comes from the wings of the plane. The second is the weight of the plane, or you could say the pulling force. So, the more the weight of the plane, the more people there are, and the more fuel it carries, the greater the force going downwards will be due to gravity. And, the plane will need just as much force to fly. Another thing is thrust, which pushes the plane forward, and that comes from the engine. So when the plane flies, it's basically pushing itself forward, and as it does that, there's one more force at work, which is called drag. Because as the plane pushes through the air, there's resistance from the air itself. Because of that, the plane gets pulled backwards. So it's really the combination of these four things, and the plane only flies when everything is just right. When the plane takes off, the engine generates thrust and pushes the plane forward, which helps the plane move ahead. Along with that, depending on the position of its wings, it gets lift. That's why the plane can rise upward. So when the engine pushes forward, the wings cut the air and make a lift. But at that time, the plane moves slowly. That's why the wings are called flaps. Flaps are increased so that they can rise easily. Now, how did the problem happen here? So, according to the report so far, when the plane takes off, the flaps are opened. So this flap did not open. So it is very important to bend the flap down so that the wings can make more lift. If the flap does not open, then the wings have a lot of trouble flying, especially when the weight is heavy. And in this case, the weight was also very heavy. There were more than 230 passengers in the plane. And the engine of the plane was also full. Around 125,000 liters was its fuel. And the third thing is that there was a lot of heat outside. Due to the heat, the air becomes a little thin, That makes the lift even less. So the possibilities so far are being told like what would have happened. So when the pilot flew the plane, he did not open the flap. This is possible. The plane put pressure, but the wings could not make a lift. Or it could be that the weight was heavy, the air was thin and there was no proper lift. And it could also be that the plane could not go up and fell down in a few seconds. So, any of these reasons can happen. So now, what do we learn from this, or what lesson do we get? So, no matter how big and new the plane is, if the necessary things for flying are not right, like the flap, then it cannot fly. And the flap is a small thing, but its role is very important in saving lives. So, what is happening in the test so far? So, there is a flight data recorder in the flight. And there is a cockpit voice recorder. So the flight data recorder has been found. Now the cockpit voice recorder is being found, which will tell us more about the configuration of the flight when the plane crashed. So what else is being paid attention to in the test? So there are other things that are being paid attention to. When takeoff 4 came, were both the engines working properly? Was the engine thrust proper? The flaps that are part of the wings, did the flaps not come down? Because the video that is being shared on social media, the flaps were up in the video. What was the configuration of the landing gear? Why was the gear open during takeoff? which is visible on social media in the video. And when was it maintained? Was the plane maintained on time or not? So all this information will become clearer in the future, and we will know what happened, because of which this plane crashed. And such a terrible incident happened, and people lost their lives. So if you like this information, then like and share the video, and subscribe to the channel.